Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Prep Life Podcast. This is your founder and CEO of Glam Girl Bikini, Amy Anger. And today I'm joined by special guest Celeste Rains-Turk. Celeste, welcome to the
Hello.
show.
Thank you so much for having me again. I am
Yeah.
excited to be back on, and I know we've got some special things to talk about today.
Yeah, and we were just talking offline about how you just are recently married. So congratulations. It's the last time you weren't technically Celeste Ford, but
Yes. Well,
everybody.
thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about yourself. If people that are listeners, this is the first time hearing of you and kind of your background and what you specialize in.
Yeah, so some of your listeners might also listen to my podcast, Confessions of a Bikini Pro. So I'll start there. If you listen, it's me. And then
You probably
branching off
recognize your
of
voice.
yeah, I hope I get that more often than like people recognizing my face, by the way. They're always like, I know that voice.
Oh,
Um
that's interesting. I've had that happen to me in elevators at shows before.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly when it's happened to me too, because I'll be talking to somebody else and they're like, wait, I know you.
Isn't that such a weird feeling
It
that people
is
know you by
because
your
I
voice?
get all shy. I'm like, no, I'm
I
not.
know. That's what I
It's
do.
just me.
Same.
Um, yeah, so basically I got my bachelor's degree in psychology. Now it's been years. And after that, I decided to start Confessions of a Bikini Pro. And in starting that podcast, I realized that my message of build more than just a body applied to bodybuilders. And so that really led me to specializing more in counseling and mental health support for competitors. I even went on and got my clinical mental health counseling master's degree and became a national certified counselor. I'm a licensed associate counselor in Arizona too. Um, so that's somewhat like the educational background I would share. And aside from that, I'm an author. I wrote a book when I was 19 called Believe Your Way to Badass. And it's all about personal development. And it's technically a self-help book, but it's really a guided journal system to help you to achieve your goals. And in the work that I do, more specifically, I apply the principles of mindfulness, psychology. Of course, when I'm working directly with someone, there's counseling principles and techniques that we're using to help them to make peace with food without sacrificing their physique goals, really just to have mental health without putting your goals, whether that's to compete or it's to have a healthier lifestyle. I never want that to take the back seat to prioritize mental health. So that's what I'm trying to change and transform in the industry.
Yeah, and I feel like you've become a front runner when it comes to speaking engagements and things like that.
Thank
So,
you.
did you recently attend the women's workshop? I wasn't sure if you did this year.
No,
Okay.
I spoke at it last year. I didn't attend this year. They had received well, I won't even get into it, but yeah, I didn't go this year, but I
Okay.
did speak at it last year.
Yes, and you've been amazing at all of our retreats for Glam
Thank
Girl, which
you.
previously were in Phoenix when you lived there, which was so convenient.
That was so
One of my
awesome.
favorite cities, and so
Same.
we always had the fun retreats, and you were an integral part of making those events really special. Which we are going to be talking a little bit about the event we're having on March 22nd here in Kansas City. Celeste's coming out here.
So
Is
excited.
this your first time to Kansas City? I don't even know.
No, the last time I was there, I was speaking at an angel event, actually, a
Oh,
fashion
okay.
show. Yeah.
That's right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, Angel Competition Bikinis headquarters is here in this area. So, the new gym, Beastified, Celeste is going to come for the afternoon portion of our event from 1 to 4. And she's going to be, we'll get into a little bit about what you're going to do at that. But it is open registration. Spots are filling up. So, we'll put the link in the description box on how to sign up for that amazing event. Because the morning also is packed with like fit model, wellness, bikini posing, glute workouts. And then we also have limited space in our sweat vault, which is the yoga studio that's inside the bodybuilding gym
That's
um,
amazing.
that kind of works. And so Corey's a specialist on getting people range of motion. Everybody raves about how once they take her class, they're able to pose, hit their poses so much better because it really opens up the body. And her husband's the owner of the gym and he's a bodybuilder. And so she knows exactly like what kind of things to increase the mobility that are there. So, I digress. But what I wanted to ask you is, can you just give our listeners a brief overview of maybe what you're going to be working on at the workshop? And then I'll get into some other questions that we had from listeners.
Absolutely. So, we're going to be doing a lot on nutrition and overall mindset. And when we say nutrition, what we're looking at is not what to eat and how much of it to eat, but more so why you eat, what thoughts go into what you eat, how can we bring more mindfulness to eating, what's the benefit to that, what's the risk of not doing that. So, the goal, really, in the portion of the seminar that I'll be speaking in, is to bring mental health to what it is you're doing and to help that make you a better athlete. Because without the mental side of things, I think we're limiting our potential greatly. And even though it can be difficult sometimes to look at or even consider implementing another step in your process, it could be the step, and I do believe it is the step that allows for greater longevity. Because if you're mentally taken care of and you're following a process that you're connected to and attached to, even if it's not the most sustainable for a short period of time, like the ending points of a prep, for example, or the intense points of a deficit. I want people to be able to know that they can align themselves with that mentally to push through it, but also that they can take a step back when they need to, or if they need to, and how to navigate those decisions when they're made or being made as well.
Yeah, and I feel like I listened to a recent podcast where you were interviewing your coach, and I feel like your approach to your personal journey. And can you kind of just share with our listeners what your goal is for this year? I think it was really cool how you talked about how kind of your mind set shift has happened with your personal journey. Can you
Yeah,
start there?
so yeah, I actually went into this season not really wanting to compete anymore, to be totally honest with you guys. Like, I felt really disconnected from the sport. I was feeling like bikini was just a really hard division and not as attainable. I had This is my 10th year in competing, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to keep doing it. It feels like every time I grow, then the division criteria gets bigger too. So I was feeling quite disheartened, maybe a little bit
Yeah.
of hopelessness too, where I was just like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I fit into this. And um I was loving my improvement season so much. Like, I was in such a solid groove with my life. It's like all of these aspects were just aligned and balanced. I don't want to say perfectly, but close to it, where I was just like, why would I want to change this for a physique I don't even really necessarily love? I don't love being super stage lean. And also for this process that's very intensive. But I knew there was a part of me that really did desire to give it a shot again and to know that I didn't give up on it. Because if there's even an inkling within me of, well, what if I would have, then I need to, because I don't want to regret not. So, in speaking with my coach, we came to the conclusion that let's push with a prep. And if at some point as we're pushing, I decide, you know what, I actually really just don't want to do this, then it's fine. And taking that pressure off myself and just committing to the prep in that process, it's actually transformed and been really amazing, because this prep hasn't felt like previous preps and being in the throes of it. And I've had a lot more balance in life. It's like I've applied a lot of what came from my improvement season into it. And now and I had my best improvement season, and I feel like I'm finally at my best physique. Maybe I'm at that point where right before you have success, you hit a sticking point. I think I am now past my sticking point, and I'm pushing to compete in all natural bikini NPC shows this year. So
Love it.
I'm gonna do, or I'm planning to do the Dave Lieberman, and then I'm planning to do the North Carolina Natural, and then I'm gonna go and compete for my pro card at the Pitts Power Fest, which I'm Pitts Power Sports Fest that which was the Pittsburgh Pro previously, and they're now turning it into a whole expo. So that's my plan for the season. That's kind of the mindset journey I've been on myself. And now being so close, I actually feel that fire. I feel excited. I see my physique changing, and I don't feel this resistance to it. I actually feel this deeper connection to it, knowing that our body is evolutionary. It's always changing. We can't predict what we're going to look like tomorrow. So I actually am okay with what's happening, and I appreciate seeing it, and I'm enjoying the work. And the last thing I'll say, because I know I've been kind of rambling about this journey, the last thing I'll say about it is one of the things I'm most excited about for this season is my mom, who's no longer with us, but she used to come to every single show of mine. And this year, the Pittsburgh show that I'm competing in to go for my pro card is on Mother's Day. So I feel when I saw that and realized that, I was like, wow, like that's my mom. She's going to be there with me, and I get to honor
Mm,
her through that. And also my now stepson, he's also going to come and support me, which that's super awesome. So it just feels like a full circle moment, and that makes everything of this journey even more worth it, you know?
that's amazing because you're
Yeah.
a new mom.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't want
Uh,
to get pregnant at 16 and I didn't, but here I am with a child who's 12.
love it. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate your transparency. And so, coming out here, you're going to be 2 weeks out. I just did the math
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Lord, I haven't done that math. I'm like, we're just
from
gonna
the
keep
Dave
going.
Lieberman anyway,
It's
in
awesome.
Ohio. So, yeah, that's exciting. That's a cool show, by the way. If none of you have done it that are listening, the trophies are one of my athletes won her class at that show, and the trophy was taller than her.
That's why I'm
Yeah.
driving there because
Yeah. You want to take that trophy home.
I'm like, hey, if my intention
They're
is
the
to win, we
coolest.
should drive.
Yeah. Yeah. It was taller than her. She was shorter, but still, they're very tall.
So awesome.
Okay. So, kind of shifting gears here, I wanted to ask you what the most common mental blocks you see amongst bikini competitors and how do you help them overcome them?
Oof.
Kind
One
of a
of the
loaded
biggest.
question.
Yeah, I like that question though. There's many mental blocks that come up. One of the more prominent ones that I see with bikini competitors specifically is a hyperfixation on their body, especially when they're coming out of a prep. And
Mhm.
the concern being, I'm getting bigger, I'm gaining weight, I was doing so great and looking so good, and now I can barely stick to my plan and my body's changing. That's one of the major mental concerns that I see because we have such a deep connection between what we eat and how we look. So that becomes a problem for a lot of the bikini competitors that I work with.
What's just one strategy? I'm sure there's many, but what's one that you find is really effective in helping that person that is going through the body dysmorphia post show? What's something that you help them or a tip that our listeners could take away?
So, one tip I would give if you're in that situation is when you are doing a check-in or a weigh-in or anything of that nature, start with a reflection on your past week. What are you proud of yourself for? What went well? What variables might be at play to influence this number or the way that you look? And then what's something you're looking forward to for the day ahead? We want to have something beyond this that matters to you. So, that's one way to kind of shift out of the feeling of being so woven into it. And I would like to give one more tip. When then you're going into a prep, your next prep, um, don't over celebrate weight drops or physique changes to the point where it's, oh, I'm constantly body checking. I'm constantly weighing myself and it's getting lower and I'm feeling good. And because every time you're celebrating that, instead of celebrating the process, you're creating this fixation on an outcome and you're saying, oh, this leanness or this weight drop is on a pedestal instead of saying, what is the process that's really fulfilling me right now? And that's nutrition, training, mental work, posing, all of that's the same, even in improvement season. So making process priority.
Yeah, I like what you said. And I feel like with anxiety, it's usually like fear of what's happened in the past or fear that's of what might happen in the future. And what I heard you say in that first comment is just like bringing your mind to gratitude. Would you say that that's like another way of putting it is just kind of bringing, I mean, reflecting, yes, but also just
Mhm.
thinking about what you're grateful for to kind of keep you in that moment? Is that
Oh, I
something that
absolutely
would
think
help?
that's, yeah, I think that would be great, especially because if you're focused on what you're grateful for from like what your body does for you or the fact that you can nourish your body the way that you do or move your body the way that you do, it is reinforcing the process and your excitement about the process versus, oh, great, I'm heavier or oh, great, I overate yesterday and now I got to do this check. All of that's very negative as far as the process goes. It's not really related.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so how do you balance pushing clients so when clients are getting pushed to their limits or um, while you can maintain like kind of like a positive and sustainable approach to the sport. So when you see clients that are really pushing the limits, how do you ensure that they maintain that positive, sustainable approach? Like what are some other practices that could apply?
I'm really glad you asked this question because I have a client right now who I actually encourage to consider taking a step back and doing more of a diet break or talking with her coach and reevaluating where she's at because there was so much resistance and burnout. So if someone's at the place of burnout where they're just not like they're hating the process or the way they speak about it is very negative, I might take a different approach than what I'm about to share for the person who is still like, I'm really in this, I want to do this, it's just getting hard. So if it's someone who's like, I'm in this, I want to do it, it's getting harder, I know I need to keep pushing, the way that I approach that is, okay, we know this is a very temporary approach to the problem. The problem being you're not ready for the stage yet, let's say. So it's just a temporary approach. This isn't something we're going to have to sustain for a long, long period of time. So how do we make sure that you're maybe you could say like protected against the long-term ramifications of it. And
Hmm.
part of that comes down to how are you perceiving this? Are you perceiving this as, oh, it sucks. It's just because I'm in prep, but I'm not not lean enough. Or are you perceiving it as this is an opportunity to be better than I was? So I like to take the approach of instead of going, this is scary, this is hard, this is challenging, what if it's this is growing me, this is changing me, this is an opportunity? And what are we so afraid of? Like, what is it that makes it so hard? Is it the hunger? Is it the fatigue? Is it the fact that you've got to put more time and energy into this than maybe you were hoping for or intending to? What is creating this resistance to that final push? When we identify the resistance, it can give us some more insight into what needs to be done. So let's say someone's resistance is in the time that they have to invest. So we might weigh out their day and what it looks like and where that time actually can fit in and how they might structure it. And okay, maybe you can't do a full hour in the morning, but we split it up and that's okay and work with them through any all or nothing thinking. Or maybe their resistance is to the diet. I'm so hungry. I'm so hungry. Okay, is this level of hunger unsafe to experience? Are we doing everything we can to nourish your body in a way that mitigates that hunger? Feeding at the same time, listening to your coach, communicating these feelings with your coach. Like, are you doing what needs to be done? Generally, once you walk someone through that process, they're feeling more ignited. And lastly, always come back to the values. So, what is it that you value in your life, and how does pursuing this goal align with those values? When you can stay connected to that, that internal motivation, that internal drive is going to be so much stronger, so much higher because you go, what happens if I don't pursue this? And that's where you start feeling like, well, this could be let down or this could change, or what happens if I do? This could be uplifted, this could be upheld, this could be an example, and so on. So connecting to the core values as well.
Okay. What are some practices that you put clients through in establishing their core values and their ethics? So, like, what is the process to that can be the best way to really get to the deep root? Because sometimes I know through my coaching experience, sometimes you'll ask a question and you get kind of like a surface, and then you got to dig a little bit deeper, and like especially for that why, there needs to be like a really good purpose. And how do we get to that? What's the best way?
The way that I approach it is asking my clients, what is it that like gets you excited to wake up in the morning and keeps you up at night? Like, what's that thing? What are those things? What are those principles in your life that just keep you going overall, not just fitness or this goal, but overall, what are those principles that keep you going? And if they don't know at all, like let's say they're like at the core of my soul, I really don't know what matters to me, then we can explore, well, what do you find yourself thinking about the most or focusing on the most? And if we were to put these on a piece of paper, these are a list of values to choose from. Which of these really makes the most sense to you? So I'll offer them, if they're really not sure at all, I'll offer them a list of these values, have them circle what resonates, and then they'll define those words. If they see similarities in those definitions, we take it into one umbrella. So that's where we find the themes. Okay, you circled community, fellowship, and family and connection. Maybe what you value there is love. Oh, okay, because the overarching theme there is love, or maybe it's something else that they might define. That's how we would establish like the core, and then how does that relate to the goal? So we define that core value by saying, how do I know this value is being satisfied? Or how would I define it and know it's being satisfied? This allows us to bring in all those elements. And then we say, how does working towards my goal of getting on stage align with my value of blank, blank, and blank? And then they can fill in those blanks with their values. And then they go, it aligns with this value because of X. So, for example, someone might value family. They want to get on stage. Their resistance previously was it takes time away from their family. And then they go, oh, well, by working towards this goal of getting on stage, I'm showing my family that I do take care of myself and I have goals and dreams that I pursue. And I'm also a unique being apart from them, or I'm an example, or I can instill these healthy habits into them and show what this hard work creates. And these are examples from clients I've spoken with. So that's the process I would take someone through.
I love that. That's really good. What, okay, so I'm going to go through a couple of these questions.
Mhm.
What's one misconception about bikini competitions and prep that you would like to clear up that you feel like is a misnomer out there for people that don't know a lot about the sport?
It's not just chicken and asparagus. It's not some like dieting competition. That's sometimes a response or a question I hear is like, oh, I could never do the dieting. I'm like, not really that. It's not that different than that life. Um, and then also the misconception that it's like, you're just up there to show your butt in a sparkly bikini. Like, well, that's not true at all. Like, yeah, you're showing your glutes and your shoulders and your conditioning and your muscle development, but that's a misconception that I would like to squash because I think it promotes hypersexualization of women in the industry.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so as far as if somebody has never attended one of your events, can you kind of share with our listeners what that event would look like? So, for example, I know you have the nice workbooks, but it seems like to me that, even though we've used a similar workbook a long times, it's always looks different, and I feel like you do a really good job of connecting with like the audience and kind of figuring out like what their needs are. But if somebody were to just want to know exactly what they would be, getting into with this 3 hours, what would that look like for them?
Oh, thank you for your kind words about what I do. I strive to connect with the people there, so that's awesome to hear. I guess you could expect we're not just going to do psychoeducation. You're going to have a lot of psychoeducation. Like my goal is to teach you principles that you'll remember and apply in your life, but also implement them out. Like you'll be journaling with us. We'll be talking about what's coming up for the individuals who would like to share. And I encourage you see me encourage people to share if they have it. And so there'll be times where we also connect with each other. We might do a group activity. Sometimes those group activities are awkward. This year it won't be as awkward, I promise. We're not doing the eye thing that we did less glam girl event, so you got something new to look forward to. Which I'm looking forward to that. So we'll do things as a group. We'll get into the psychoeducational material of a specific topic, and then we'll go over questions, answer those questions. It kind of is I guess it's like this. I go on tangents without fear because generally it ends up answering more questions or leading to more insights, but I also offered the opportunity to explore these principles and then by the end of it, we're going over how are you applying this to your daily life? What are we taking from this event? So it's not just you're not going to come to an event of mine and expect to be rah 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 motivation. I'm not doing that. Maybe you'll be motivated by other people's stories when they share, but I'm not there to be like, da 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 da. I'm there to offer a mental health approach that you can apply to your daily life. I would say that's, and I'm very genuine. I'd like to believe I'm very genuine. You're not like what you see is what you get. So you can expect that it'll be a friendly and easy environment.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just to give some examples of topics, I know, for example, you usually talk about like food rituals. Did you want to share any like snippets about what some maybe like one good tip for like establishing a good food ritual? Or
Yeah. The food ritual that I get the most positive feedback on from, so I have these full mealtime rituals I provide to clients who work with me in the food relationship program, and I share like usually like maybe three of the mealtime ritual questions at the events. And the one that I get the most positive feedback on is always how does this align with my goals? So when we're about to eat something and we ask, well, how does eating this align with my goals, or what is the goal value of this meal? And that's, you could rate that on a scale from 1 to 10. What's the goal value? And the goal value is not just considerate of the outcome you want, right? Like most people's mind goes to physique. How does it align with my physique? But it's also fellowship, it's connection, it's culture, it's relationship. What are the all the life goals and what's the value of this meal towards that? How does it fuel that? Much like we talked about with the values and those connections, that's kind of what we're bringing out here, and we want to explore how do we even know that that meal or that choice aligns with the values of the goals. So I get the most common positive feedback from that because it a mealtime ritual is meant to offer pause before choosing to eat something. And when we do it at our normal meals, the ones that we're used to having, maybe the safer ones, people might say, it creates the neural pathway of I think before I eat. I think before I eat. So then when you want to reach for something off plan, well, hopefully we've created a new pathway that says I think before I eat. And so it offers a intentional pause before eating anything. We're not saying this food is bad or this food is good. We're just offering an opportunity to consider the decision we're making and its impact on us.
I like that you mentioned kind of the neural pathway and the habit creation. Are there any other really good tips that you have for creating a new habit? You know, maybe it's a new competitor and they're just trying to figure out ways to get these new, things that are part of their life and part of this prep that they have to kind of integrate into their schedule. Or I guess, do you have a good habit forming tip?
Sure, I'll give one that maybe is unexpected, which is to have self-compassion.
Okay.
We don't want to have criticism in the process of forming a habit. I think that that enforces all or nothing thinking and this shame cycle.
Hmm.
Self-compassion, on the other hand, is curious and it's considerate. So it offers a space to learn when you're applying habits. I think if you're, I gotta do all this and meet all the, that's so difficult. So when you don't, you feel like you failed. But if you're compassionate, you are able to acknowledge how you're feeling about the decision you made, allow yourself to feel that, and then take the time to understand it. AAU. That's the process of self-validation. When you apply that to habit building, you now can learn what went wrong when I tried to implement this, or what went right. So relieving some of that pressure of I have to and making it more like this habit is important to me, but how do I make sure I integrate it in a way that it is sustainable and convenient?
Okay. If somebody has a really long prep, like or not prep, I guess improvement season, so a couple years of building where, um, how do they kind of keep their long-term goal of maybe getting back on stage with a new improved physique? How do they kind of keep that focused? And what are some things? I mean, because I think you have taken how many years has it been since you've been
Two,
back? Yeah.
two
So I
years.
guess this question is kind
Well,
of for
three
you too
almost, I
as
guess.
well. If you
Yeah.
could share how you stay focused and all of that.
Working with a coach.
Hmm.
And you didn't pay me to say that, obviously, but like, I mean, seriously, it makes a difference. I think when you work with a coach or a mentor, you have some sort of community that is keeping you involved and keeping you focused. That helps. Working with a coach has allowed me to, my workouts are built with the intention of looking like a better bikini competitor. So every time I go into the gym, like I know I'm executing towards that goal, even if it looks a little different. And when I have macros set aside for me and I'm eating a meal, it's again, it's intentional. I know that this is for a purpose. It's to grow, it's to recover, it's to build. Um, that's how I personally have found it to be beneficial. Another thing from a mental perspective is we should be writing about or considering or at least repeating and seeing our goals on a consistent basis. So if you know you're going to compete again in the future, it's not one of those things that's off the table or we're no, you know you're going to. Writing about that consistently, like how did I work towards this goal this month, or what am I doing, and why is it important to me? We want our daily habits to reflect what we want ultimately. So just reflecting on that each day, I think, could be very beneficial. But that's what keeps me in the zone of like, I'm going to step on stage in the future is just, well, I've got my training, I've got my nutrition aligned. I have someone who I get to check in with and who's telling me, oh, you're looking better here, or this is going well. And that helps me to want to eat more and push harder.
Yeah. So those of us that, myself included, I have to say that journaling for me is kind of a grind. Like I kind of forced myself to last prep, and I do think that it was extremely beneficial because it helped me kind of align my weeks. But I've kind of like in all honesty, I've dropped off ever since I was done with prep because it was so easy to, mind, body, spirit, like all of that stuff, like get everything for the week that's important and put an actual place and a time with these goals for the day and like what went well yesterday, what didn't go well. Those of us that don't like journaling, so I kind of like put that habit with my treadmill cardio,
Yeah.
so I was forced to do it. But if we don't like journaling and writing, what is another way that we can, because you had mentioned that you write it down, so what's another tip or I guess suggestion for somebody that doesn't like journaling like myself?
Yeah. Oh, I get out of the habit of journaling too myself. I used to put so much pressure on myself, like I gotta journal every single day. And now I'm just like, I don't need it. It doesn't make a difference. What ultimately matters is are we aligning our thoughts and our actions to that goal? So if you don't like writing, sometimes voice memoing can be good. I've recommended to clients before. I'm like, use your voice memo app and just practice saying it out loud, saying what you're working towards or reflecting. Because sometimes we're on like a little mental health walk outside and we're thinking of all these things. You could be voice memoing that. Another thing
Okay.
is I use art. Like I love making art and I have
Mhm.
found it such a great outlet for me and it offers a space to really think about that stuff. So even though it doesn't the art isn't me like, oh, this is a bikini competitor. It's like this is a color and this is how but while I'm doing it, it's offering a space to think and pause and be. So that would be a recommendation. And lastly, I mean, let's say you're in the shower. Like this is something you could do. You could just be thinking for every step of the shower, you're like, okay, this is something that I'm excited about in my life. This is something that I'm working towards. Here's why that's important. It could be so simple. It doesn't have to be this 5 a.m. wake up, journal, meditate, and do all the things. I don't think it
Okay.
has to be that complicated.
Okay. Do you believe at all in vision boards? Because when
Oh,
you said
yes.
art, I thought my mind went towards that too. Because that was another uh, thing that I used last prep as well. It was just a vision board, but I didn't know what your thoughts were on that.
Oh,
If you use them.
absolutely. I think vision boards are great. My recommendation with vision boards is that they're based in values.
Okay.
So when you create a vision board, not every piece image should be outcome oriented. I think that it should be more rooted in process as well as the values connected to that.
Hmm.
I have, it's good that you mentioned that because I see it every day. that I don't sometimes the things that you do every day as a coach, you don't always think, "Oh yeah, I should tell my clients like that's something that's important," because it just becomes second nature to you.
Yes, yes. I think that a
My
lot all the time. Like when I'm doing certain things with food and all that, I'm like, I should probably post this. I'll be
right?
helpful to somebody, but I just
Like
don't think
taking the
about it.
peanut butter off of the scale and
Yes.
weighing it negatively, like you just don't think to share that and tell someone's like, I've never seen that. And you're like, oh my gosh. But anyway, I have my desktop background is a vision board.
Oh, okay. That's a
So it
good
has like,
idea.
yeah, it has my
On your
values, has
laptop.
pictures of my family, quotes. It has like images of habits such as Bible verses or a book or a journal to
Ooh.
remind me those things are important. So I like it personally. I like it digitally because I can just like reference it very easily,
Mhm.
and I don't have to put too much into it other than open Canva and paste those images and words.
Yeah, I was gonna say Canva has some really good templates, so I was wondering if you had used that.
Yep.
That's really cool. Okay. So are there any questions or any other things that you would like to share with our listeners that just like since the last time you've been on, it's been a while. So is there any sort of new like programs that you offer or things that you want people to know about that you're doing right now? Any projects that you're excited about?
Hmm. Something I guess I'm excited about a lot of things, but it's a lot of the same. Honestly,
Okay.
the thing I wish more people knew that I offer though is my on-demand mindset coaching platform. It's an automatic system I created where you can go in and select what season you're in, and then there's a drop-down list of categories you might be struggling with: food, discipline and motivation, body image, the way that you perceive yourself. So these things are all listed. You select that, and then it guides you to a more specific, well, what if it was food? Is it binging? Is it overeating? Is it undereat? What is it? And then you click that struggle, and it'll automatically generate an answer for you. And I created this system so that maybe people who couldn't invest to work with me one on one right now, or maybe that's not what they're exactly looking for, but they want that mental health support. I wanted it to be accessible for everyone. I only charge $12.99 a month, and they have group calls with me every month, as well as the other people in the build, more than just a body community. So I wish more people knew about that. So I'll mention that. That's on celestial.fit/on demand. It's a passion and a love for me to be able to have a platform like that for competitors to get support. And also, let me just mention, it's a
Yeah.
full membership portal too. So even if you're not going through that on-demand system where you're clicking what you're struggling with, you can still access tons and tons of resources for mental health that I've created for specifically for lifestyle or competitors there.
Awesome. Okay, so last question. What's a book, a habit, or a practice that significantly has been impacting your life recently?
Bible study in the morning. That has been the most impactful for me more recently. Like I've made a habit of being in my Bible. I used to use my phone and do like the Bible app,
Hmm.
and I loved that. Doing the devotionals in there, but then my husband gifted me a Bible for my birthday, and to actually have a Bible that I get to study in and work in and disconnect from my phone in the morning and just be in the Word, no pressure, just learning, just being, has been amazing for me.
That's awesome. I love that.
Thanks.
So, just to give a couple of details before we sign off, if you would like to be a part of the event on March 22nd, the whole day is $150. So, that's a bit of a discount because the morning portion is $50 for the glutes, the posing, and the mobility. And then afternoon separately is 125. So, you get a little bit of discount if you do the full day for 150. So, we really hope to get a lot of competitors to this event. I think these events are really just where you can get around like-minded people, and not only are they going to learn a lot from you, but I just think creating that community. We are such a small community. We sometimes forget that we kind of need other people around us to kind of build us up and really motivate us. That proximity rule of just, the people you surround yourself with are going to be the average of, what you are. So the more you can be around people just like you for the same goals, the better off I think everyone's going to be. So, any closing thoughts before we sign off? Make sure you let everybody know where to find you on social media. We'll definitely put that in the show notes as well. But I want them to get the opportunity to thank you for coming on today and all of that.
That's awesome. Well, yes, and I echo everything you said about live events. I think they're invaluable for community. What you're offering at this event, the morning session alone, I mean, that what you're offering in the posing or what you're offering in the mobility, all of that is worth the price of admission. So I think it's an incredibly fair and amazing offer and a great resource for competitors and non-competitors, people thinking about it who want to explore it. At least I think it's great. And we've had so much fun at other Glam Girl events. I was honestly sad when we weren't having them. So I was so excited
Yeah.
this year when you called me and told me we're going to do it again. So I'm thrilled. I can't wait to meet everybody. And if you want to connect with me in the meantime, you can visit my Instagram is celestial_fit and my website is www.celestial.fit.
Yes. And just so you know, I was trying to get an event last year, but this gym has taken forever to get built. So it was supposed to get built in like September of 2023. So we were supposed to have the event in 2024, but it didn't get built until like the end of July. So that is why.
Well, it
But
looks incredible.
yeah, better late than never. So
That's right.
thank you so much for your time, Celeste. I really appreciate you.
It was my
And
pleasure.
if you would like to find the link for the event as well, you can go to glamgirlbikini.com or you can find it on our link tree on Instagram at glamgirlbikini or at Prep Life Podcast. Thanks for listening, guys.